What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pixel Perspective Podcast. My name is JJ, and I'm here with my friend Adrian. Adrian, what's up, man?
Hey, JJ, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. Ready to talk some games, as per usual.
I am too.
Cool, man. We're talking sequels today.
Yeah, that's right. Everything about sequels. What makes a sequel? What's a good sequel? What's a bad sequel? You know, the right way to do a sequel. Just sequels in general.
What's funny is my bad sequels. Like I picked 3 off the top of my head, and 2 of them I actually liked, but they were not well received by everybody else. So
okay,
interesting. But before we jump into that, sir, what have you been playing?
Not a whole lot. Surprisingly enough, you know, I usually have a smorgasbord of games that I've been playing, but not this time. It's spring's hitting, you know, the weather's looking good, getting outside a little bit more. And honestly, the biggest reason why is just I'm going through one of those phases right now where I don't particularly want to game. And, you know, it's kind of weird. This could be a good topic, actually. You've never had this before. Your face shows confusion.
I have, but it usually lasts for like an afternoon.
Oh no,
not like over the course of a month or a few weeks.
No, when it hits me, man, it hits me for at least a few weeks, maybe a month. What happens is, you know, I think there's a variety of different reasons why this happens, but I think right now for me, the reason why this is happening is just I've been overwhelmed with a lot of things lately.
Sure.
And so whenever I have downtime, if I have downtime, which isn't very often right now, especially with the nicer weather, we've been able to get out and get around a little bit more.
Yeah.
I haven't been stuck at home as much. So that's been part of the reason. You know, when I finally get time to wind down, I'll put on like a go-to game for me right now is Bust a Move. That's kind of what I've been playing. It's just a game that I can play, not think about it much, and just turn off.
Mindless,
I haven't really had the drive to play something involved, like a story-driven game or any kind of quest type game. I guess I should say single-player game. I just don't have the energy for it. You know what I mean? And I think I
usually have to, like, I mean, I completely understand. Like, as much as I love RPGs, there's plenty of times where I still want to take a break with something mindless because I can't play. It's very rare that I go 2 RPGs back to back, just because they take a lot out of me. So yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I am, and you know, so I lean on my Switch primarily just to help get me through that time. And what usually ends up happening is, you know, I'll move on to something else. And then, you know, whether it's like I right now, my thing is when I'm laying down in bed, winding down for the day, is I'll just flip on YouTube and watch a few videos before I go to bed.
Sure.
Instead of, or like I said, play something like Bust a Move and then move on next day and not have much time to do anything. That's why I kind of like fell off of Monster Hunter. And actually, I do want to talk about Monster Hunter. You want to talk about that now, or do you want to talk about that later?
I mean, why not now? Why would?
Well, it's because it's something that you just played through as well. So I didn't know if you wanted to wait or not. But
well, I mean, if you've got anything else, you can mention that, and then we can use that to transition.
I don't.
To me. Okay, then yeah. I mean, yes, I've been playing some Monster Hunter. So what's on your mind, Adrian?
Sorry, I am so great at moving a show along, you know. That's just how I roll.
Absolutely.
I wanted to show this off. This is how I've been playing Bust a Move.
Oh, cool.
So this is my Geo Pocket Color. I found it last weekend at a garage sale for $3, and I was ecstatic that I found that thing. It's just, you don't see these. Like, I have never seen one of these. So It came with Bust a Move, which is one of my favorite puzzle games. So I've been playing that like daily. It's a fun little system. I don't know if you knew about these, but it's got a thumbstick instead of joy or D-pad. And
I've
this
never
came
used
out
one,
like,
huh?
yeah, this came out in like 99. So can you hear that?
I do. Yeah.
It's a clicky joystick and it's so cool.
Sounds like
They have a
the
lot of
C
really,
pad on a Nintendo 64 controller.
yeah, very similar to that. It's just very clicky and fun. Um, but they released a lot of pocket versions of SNK games like Fatal Fury, Samurai Showdown, also
Mhm.
Metal Slug, um, Bubble Bobble, or not Bubble Bobble, Bust a Move. They
Yeah.
also had a Capcom game, fighting game. There's a whole library of games on here that I didn't know existed, and I'm like so excited about it. So there is a compilation on the Switch eShop right now that has, I think, 10 different Neo Geo Pocket Color games on it. It's
Oh,
expensive. It's
cool.
like $40, but it's really
Oh,
cool. Yeah. I do recommend checking it out though, just out of curiosity's sake, if you've never heard of these games before, because they are interesting. They're little chibi style fighters and stuff like that. It's cool how they've translated these games that into a smaller handheld 90s version, Anyway,
awesome.
Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
um, I have feelings about Monster Hunter that I don't know quite how to. Hello, kitty.
Can you hear him?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's up, buddy? Yeah.
Oh, he's
What's
chatty
going
tonight.
on? He is. He's been like this all day. What's up, pal? You want to come say hi?
And he'll stay up there for 2 seconds and jump off. That's what he does, right?
He's already trying.
I've seen enough of your videos to know how your cat operates.
Yeah. Well, the first time I ever talked about him on camera, he actually jumped up on I can't remember the exact video, but he jumped up on the table as I was recording and literally sat there while I was talking. And he hasn't done it since. And I don't get it. I don't know why.
When he gets a little bit older, he'll start doing it again. He won't have the energy that he has right now.
Yeah.
So, man, there's a lot that I like about the game, but at the same time, there are things I don't like about the game. And that's why I'm conflicted. Like, I enjoy the setting. I enjoy fighting the monsters. I enjoy upgrading your weapons and figuring out, and the variety of weapons at that, figuring out a play style that works for you. The thing that really bothers me about the game is I don't feel like there's enough reward for all of the rebattles that you do, taking down these monsters over and over again.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's enough reward there. Like, whenever I finish taking out a monster, I want to go back into the village and, upgrade stuff or buy new stuff. And that isn't always the case. You have to do it multiple times before you get to a point where you can do that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that incentive for me, that drive for me to keep coming back isn't there. And I'm wondering if I'm playing the game wrong, because I see so many people who get just flat out addicted to the gameplay and it's just not clicking with me.
So don't overthink it. Is the best way that I can say. Like, if you want to go for like the best gear in the game, you want to be ultra powerful, you want to have like really, really high level stuff, what you're doing is pretty much what you have to do. If you just want to finish the single player story and get to rank 5 in your hometown or whatever it is, you don't need to do that at all. You just make whatever comes along as you're going through and you're totally fine. It's so simple and so easy to get through that. If you just play through like a bunch of handful of missions on multiplayer, you'll easily get enough gear to do that. I was impressed and blown away by how easily I blew through the single player story. And I basically I haven't played it for a while, but I when I do, it's just because somebody else I know says, hey, I want to do something on Monster Hunter, and I hop in to help out. Because I'm not going for like the best gear or anything like that. I'll always work towards it if I get, you know, pieces for it, but I'm not going out of my way because I'm the same way. I have no interest in grinding it over and over again and getting that stuff. But you don't really have to do that in this game. One of the things I like about Rise, this edition of Monster Hunter, is I think is that easy factor. I think this is probably the most accessible Monster Hunter that I've personally played. World was really, really accessible as well, but it had a lot of complicated systems, like getting information on monsters, having to track them, and find like the pieces, and you fill out your book or whatever it is bit by bit. Whereas in this one, you take them down, you get all the info right there, you're done. And it's really streamlined, really easy, super user friendly. Depending on the weapon you choose, it's probably going to be pretty intuitive. It's just a lot more streamlined, a lot more beginner friendly, in my opinion. And that's why I like this one a lot better, because I am, you know, overall pretty new to the Monster Hunter series. I never got into the originals because I didn't like the loading screens over and over again. So this kind of just, because of the ease of access on everything and the lack of requirement to grind, I really liked it. So
yeah, it sounds like your way of playing it is kind of how I've been doing it here lately. Because there in the beginning, when I was playing online with you and also Owen, you know, the focus has been primarily on multiplayer, and the multiplayer aspect of the game doesn't further your progress in the single player part of the game. They're two completely different things almost. But you do get to carry over, like you said, your gear and everything else. And yeah, so far, the single player experience has not given me any troubles whatsoever. It's actually been pretty easy. I just did the rampage finally last night, and for the first time, and that was fun. It really was, and it felt overly easy, and I think maybe it's because it's the first one. And
honestly, it never really gets that much more difficult. The first time that I did it, I jumped into a multiplayer one, and the group had no idea what we were doing. I think everybody was new, and we were all just like, are we supposed to shoot? What the heck is happening? And we lost. I haven't lost since, because now I know what I'm doing. I could probably solo. The multiplayer ones are so simple. But I do like that, like, chaotic aspect of it. What I typically try to do now is, instead of just winning, I try to win with the highest score possible. So I actually do the objectives, and try to finish those, because a lot of people don't look at those. So usually I try
give
to
you
get
more
those
rewards.
Oh yeah, a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice that.
Yep. Yeah, it's good to do those. But I honestly enjoy the rampage. A lot of people aren't, from what I understand, it's not super popular because of how easy it is. So I don't know, but I like it personally.
I enjoy the monster hunting aspect. I think there needs to be a little bit more variation. And that sounds funny coming out of my mouth, thinking about all the new mechanics that are introduced in that game constantly. It seems like I'm always running through a new tutorial for some new mechanic. Sure. And, but it's just like these mechanics, though, they're not really resonating with me, other than Rampage. Like the whole going out and assigning your palicos and your pollutes to different jobs so they can go out and get stuff for you. It's like,
you don't have to do that necessarily.
Yeah,
that's honestly another way to avoid having to grind so much, though, because they bring back parts and stuff. So
I am utilizing it, but it doesn't seem, it's not fun to me. Like, it's not fun to me to have to go talk to those quest givers every time. But also, I just learned about the items in the tree. Did you know about that?
Items in the tree.
Whenever you finish a mission, you come back to the what is it? The area with all the pets where you rent pets and stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There's a tree in there that if you go behind it, there's a vine. You climb up to the top and there's a nest, and it gives you an item for each quest that you complete or each monster that you take down.
No, I didn't know that.
I learned about that because of YouTube. I had to figure out if I was playing this game wrong, because I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why am I not getting this? And this is not my first Monster Hunter experience. My first one was Ultimate 4 on the Wii U, I think. 3 or 4. I don't remember. I played a good chunk of that, and I couldn't really get the appeal. World was definitely the better game, but I did get to a point where I was just kind of sick of it. You know, it wore on me pretty quickly, and I'm finding the same thing with Rise.
Sure.
I do enjoy the game though, and I think this presentation, the style, everything is cool. It's just I have a difficult time pushing myself to want to play it, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like I feel like besides when I am in the mood to play something a little bit more involved, it's like, do I want to play Monster Hunter or would I rather play something else? And usually my mind leans towards something else. But at the same time, my the other side is like, I already started playing this game. I need to see it through, you know, and just go ahead and finish it. It also helps that that you play it and also Billy plays it. I also bought another copy so Owen could play it with me. I think he had, or Katie, but she hasn't played with me at all. And I think Owen enjoys the game, but I think he has the same kind of feelings I do about it. Honestly, he's never really asked me to play Monster Hunter, you know.
He wants those particles.
Shoot, I forgot about that. It's always an experience playing with my kids. They're going to say something that you've never heard before. What about you? Besides Monster Hunter, what have you been playing?
So I've been knocking games off of my list. I have 11 games done out of my 20 for the year already.
Jeez, man.
And I should have another one done either tomorrow or Saturday. So recently I knocked off Assassin's Creed Unity, which is good, but the fact that it's older now and nobody plays multiplayer anymore, that game is like designed for multiplayer. There really wasn't a lot to be found that I could do and enjoy in there. But it's a beautiful game and I like the story and I was able to finish it and stuff, but you can tell that they wanted to do a lot of multiplayer stuff and there's just nobody playing online. So I couldn't, there was nobody I could, group with. So it was unfortunate, but next up is Syndicate. I'm probably going to just blow through that one because I really want to get to the open world RPG style ones. And after that is, I think, Origins. And that's where they start. So I'm super excited for that. I also finished up, what was the other one? Uncharted 4, which was amazing. Yeah. God, the Uncharted games are so good. They're so good. And 4 was no exception. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Except for the part where you're walking around drugged through the town. I hated that part.
Yeah, that was annoying. Yeah. And then also Legend of Legaia on PS1. That is a game that has haunted me since I was very young. I've owned that game since it first came out on the PS1.
Wow.
And I have tried to play it so many times. But I would always get to a point where I was just like, oh, it's so grindy. There's so much grinding in that game. Well, I kind of realize now, being older and playing it, why they did it that way. And it's to give some sort of like, it's a turn-based RPG, but you use like combos, like fighting techniques and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting. The reason they do it that way is because they want you to choose whether you want to level up and get stronger, or whether you want to just try and do it as is. Like, you can put in the time, and if you do, you will get gear. If you don't put in the time, you won't get any gear upgrades or anything like that. So the game's either going to be like super tough and challenging, or it's going to be laughably easy. I spent most of the game grinding because I just wanted to get all the gear, and it was laughably easy, especially the end boss. It took me about 3 minutes to take him down. It was super simple. It was good, but it was because I did so much grinding. I mean, there was a lot. It took me about 3 weeks to finish it, and that's a long time for me for an RPG, especially a PS1 RPG. And I beat it in, I think, 46 hours.
Wow.
So it was just so much grinding that I was just like, all right, I just grinded for 4 hours. I'm gonna take a break, and then I wouldn't play for a day or something like that. But I'm glad it's done. It's finally off my list. I finished it. There is a sequel on PS2. I've heard very mixed reactions about it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what that's like. And right now, I am playing through one of the, as you know, I like, video game history and games that come along and do a number on the industry and the fan base as a whole. I've been playing Half-Life 2 for the first time ever, and that game does not hold up very well.
Really?
No, it doesn't. The good thing is I'm very good at being able to put myself back into, the time of when it came out. So there's a lot to appreciate there. There is like the innovation and thinking about when it came out, seeing some of the stuff they did, like with the gravity gun, and the puzzles with like the counterweights and all this stuff. It's pretty impressive what they were able to pull off with that game. I really, really like that. That being said, some of the levels, man, they overstay their welcome. They're so long, and I'm just like, all right, come on, let's finish this up. So I'm about maybe 2/3 of the way through the game. So I should
it is
be
a
able
long
to
game.
finish it. I should be able to finish it either tomorrow or from what I understand, it's like maybe 10 to 12 hours on a casual playthrough.
It did not feel like that to me when I played through it. It felt very long.
I got about 6 hours into it right now. So I think it depends on if you get lost a lot and stuff, which that's another issue with me, is like, it's an action game. I don't really care that much about like puzzles, and I mean the puzzles are fun, don't get me wrong, they're neat, but I don't care as much about them. I don't care as much about exploration. I just want to kill aliens and go through the storyline of it. So that's, it is what it is. But you know what? It's another one that I'll be happy to knock off the list because I've taken so much crap for never having played it before. So I'm just glad to be able to.
Are you going to jump into the expansions?
No, probably not. I don't really have any interest. And I think I mentioned on the last episode that I beat Prey. I have that review. By the time this episode is out, the review will be up. Me talking to you right now on 4/29 when we're recording, it will be up this weekend. So
awesome.
That is Prey 2017, and that game blew me away. But there is one big issue with it, but it is spectacular. I am kicking myself for not having played it sooner. Yeah,
that's cool. I'm curious to see it. That is one that I haven't played, so curious to know what your thoughts are on it. Also, your reviews are just fun to watch in general, so it doesn't matter what game you cover. They're fun. I was going to say, I played Half-Life 2 late as well, not as late as you are, but the orange box, when that came out on the 360, that was the first time that I played Half-Life 2. And I have my feelings are pretty much the same as yours. I think I got it though. I understood what the big deal was with the game. It didn't hit me like it did for other people who played it at the time, but I got it. And that was the atmosphere that it creates, I think, is very unique. It
has some scary moments.
There's some scary moments. The character designs, the sound effects. The sound effects are very, very resonant with me. I mean, they just really stick out. And it's something that I remember. Like, the gameplay I thought was fine. It was a first person shooter, story driven, but it's really, when I think about that game, it's the soldiers and the gravity gun and the sound effects. I did enjoy my time with it though.
Cool. Yeah, my next game review, I was gonna say my next game review will be Phantasy Star 4. I would like to review that because two reasons. One, it's the end of the Phantasy Star like series, to the first 4 games other than like the online stuff. And two, because people compare it to the greats on Super Nintendo, like Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger and all that stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know that because I played Phantasy Star 1 through 3, and unless it's a huge, massive overhaul, I would not even remotely compare it to those. Not those games are bad; they're just very different. So I'm really, really anxious to see how this plays. And it won't be for a few months that this is out, but I'm definitely excited to dive into that one at some point too. I think after Half-Life 2, I plan on playing Pokemon Snap. That's out tomorrow. When we're recording this, so I'm really excited for that. I will probably play Miitopia when it comes out as well. I played it on the 3DS. No, I played it on 3DS and I finished it. I loved that game. Like, loved it. It is so simple, but you get to create your friends in the game and you get to go on adventures with your friends. And it's, I love that aspect. So I'm super, super excited for it.
I don't have experience with Miitopia. My kids do. They love it. Is the Switch version the same as the 3DS version, or is it new?
I think it's like an enhanced version.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I could be completely wrong on that, but I think that's what it is. Yeah.
I was playing through the demo when it dropped the other day, and Owen was in here with me while I was playing through it, and he was able to recognize everything that was going on and telling me what I needed to do about going to the inns. And like, whenever I got out of a world, he said, go to that girl, then she'll let you use your amiibo. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So it's like everything matched up to what he was saying. So led me to believe that it's pretty much the same game. You're still finding people's faces and putting them back on their bodies. If that was the storyline of the first one. Okay. It's funny. I enjoyed it. The best part of that game to me was, like you said, the character creation part. But I don't know if the 3DS version does this, but you can actually go online and choose other people's creations to add to your party.
No, you can't do that in the 3DS version. But what you could either create your own, or you could use people on your friends list. So you would have their enemies, just join you, which I did for the most part. But there's so many that join you that I ended up having to create a few of my own on top of that.
I found it fun. Like, that was my favorite part. Like, I don't really care to create a me. It's just not something I wanted to do. So I saw the online feature and I jumped on it. And my first teammate that I acquired was Jesus. Jesus is a knight, and he's pretty strong. And it's just funny because every time when you have dialogue with your character, it's Jesus this, Jesus that, and he's got the long hair and the long beard and everything. It just, dude, it cracked me up.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I got a lot of pleasure just out of that demo. I'm most likely going to be picking it up. Hold on. Owen wants to say something. Owen, come here.
Sure.
He hears me talking Miitopia. He has to come say something. Here, hop up here, buddy.
And the 3DS version, since it's the full game, I've been playing it, I know about the castle.
You did know about the castle, and you told me all about it. You helped me out.
The knight.
Yeah.
I named mine 48.
48?
It said soldier, so then I named it Soldier 48.
There you go. Okay.
There you go. High five,
nice.
Man. Well, we'll play it together when it comes out. Sounds like a game that you love. It is.
It's good.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I'm telling you, man, it's a lot of fun. Especially like I said, I love just pulling people off my friends list. My first party setup was myself, Mark, Brian, and Brandon, all people from TFN.
Oh, nice.
And so we just had a group and we went through, and then you lose them all, and then you have to replace them with new characters, and even the villains, you choose people off your friends list or you create them yourself. So it was a whole lot of fun.
I found somebody created like a Joker face, and it looked just like the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, and I made that as the main Dark Lord or whatever his name is. Yeah, it's fun. I enjoyed that part of it. You're right. Yeah, that is the best part of that game.
I guarantee you will be in my game, sir. So, saying.
Well, I didn't know you could create me's on the Switch, but apparently you can. And I created a me for the game that I was able to import into my Switch. So now I have a Switch me.
Haven't you seen my my avatar on there as my me?
On your
friends list, if
profile?
you see my avatar, yeah, it'll show my me.
I have seen that. I guess I never put two and two together that you could actually do that. They don't make it obvious, that's for sure.
Fair enough. Yeah. No, but I'm telling you, man, like, people look at that game and they laugh at it because they're just like,
it looks so dumb.
You play it and it's like, this is so much fun. Yeah, it's just great. It really is.
And it is straight up a traditional RPG. If you love RPGs, it's for you. It's just a funny game. I like it.
Yep. Love it. I'm so glad that you're excited for it and that you're gonna get it. So cool.
It is cool. Yeah. I'm excited though for Resident Evil 8. I played that demo too. I forgot to mention that. Or at least one of them. And oh my gosh, that they're taking a drastic change in direction, I feel like, with the different enemy types and things, but it was fun. It was creepy. I don't know if it's going to hit the same vibes with me that Resident Evil 2 and 3 did, the remakes, but
Sure.
It was still cool. Excited for that.
I still have to play one. That's on my list this year though. So
Well, the good news is you'll fly through one. It's not a long game at all. You'll beat it in less than 8 hours.
that's good because I've got a handful of JRPGs still left on the list too, and I'm gonna need palate cleansers in between. So I think the next one I'm gonna play though, once I'm done with like Star Ocean and stuff, is gonna be Star Ocean, The Last Hope. It's the longest game I have left on there. But I'm excited to play it because it's the last one in the series that I need to play and finish. So
you'll be happy. I started on Wild Arms Alter Code F. I have to get a substantial lead on you, otherwise there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up. So, I'm not too far into it, but I did probably play for a couple hours. You
get the characters together?
Not yet. Close. I've got 2.
Cool.
So
is it pretty similar to the other one, the old one, just enhanced graphics?
The gameplay is, the storyline is so far. Yes, it is. It's not exactly the same though. It just, I'm not familiar. I'm not recognizing some aspects of it, but the overall tone and everything is still familiar.
Okay, cool. Well, why don't we start talking some sequels, man?
Yeah, let's do it. Sequels. So you want me to get when I say that, it's probably obvious. That's me thinking in my head, what's the next line going to be? So
fair enough. You do what you got to do.
I like to talk through it.
Take us in.
Sequels to me it's an interesting topic because there's so many different ways that you could go about making a sequel, and there's good ways and there's bad ways. There's right ways, wrong ways, failure, success, so I thought it would be interesting to kind of tackle that topic in general and talk through it. So a question I have for you, JJ, is what makes the perfect or ideal sequel to you?
To me personally,
yes,
give me the same game. Well, not the same game, but I mean, give me a game that has the same mechanics, same characters, continues the story, just gives me a little bit more of that, and maybe like don't change a lot, but add on to it, if that makes sense.
Right.
Good example would be Mass Effect. Mass Effect 2, very much like the first one. It's a continuation of the story, but they streamlined a lot of things. They improved a lot of things. They added a whole bunch more to do. The traveling is better. The Mako missions are not garbage. There's just so much more, and it's done better. And that's kind of, it's not taking a radical left-hand turn, which is, what I hate to see when it comes to sequels.
So one of your favorite series, if not your favorite series, I think breaks one of your rules there, in that it is a different storyline, different characters each new game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still relatively, it's the same gameplay. So maybe that still falls into your category. But how do you feel about that?
I don't. So you're talking Final Fantasy, obviously.
I'm sorry, I didn't say it. Yes.
I don't really like. They're in the same series, but I don't know that I necessarily consider them true sequels to one another. Like I look at Final Fantasy X-2 as being a sequel to Final Fantasy X, but I don't really look at Final Fantasy VI being a sequel to Final Fantasy V, if that makes sense. I think it's just like, trying to think of what I can compare it to, like James Bond. I don't really look at James Bond movies and think of the next one being a sequel to the previous one.
Yeah,
I just think of it being another one in the series. So that's kind of how I
that's a
view
good way of thinking about it. Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
it.
Good comparison. Nice, I like it. Uh-huh. I agree with you. I mean, that's what makes a good sequel to me. I want to see. I don't necessarily need to see the same characters, but I do want to see a similar experience that is just made better. Like address the issues that the majority of people had with the previous game, and just make a better experience overall. I think Mass Effect is a great example of that. But
Mhm.
you know, I could name off a ton of games. I mean, Resident Evil is a perfect one. The first game was great, but it wasn't for everyone. And I think the sequel
Yep.
made it a game that was for everyone. It just improved on everything quite a bit. But it
Halo.
was still a similar experience. Halo, yeah, yep.
Yep.
I agree
First
with
game
that.
was great, but the second one I think blew it out of the water.
Yeah, it felt better. It looked better. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
another thing. Just enhancements in the graphics and things, or something that does it for me. Metal Gear Solid, the sequel to that was excellent.
Yep.
Especially compared to the first one. The first one is a great game, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. But I think the second one was ultimately a better game. Silent Hill 2 is another example. Yeah, it just those are great examples of games that do it right. Do you have any more on you?
I do. Yeah, I got
Okay,
several.
go for it. Go
It
for
was
it.
actually easier for me to come up with good sequels than it was bad ones. And even the bad ones I tended to like. So it's kind of weird. But I've also got Uncharted. Uncharted 2 was
Definitely.
unbelievable, after
Yeah,
playing Uncharted 1, which I already enjoyed. Um, Diablo. I don't know if you've played the first Diablo.
I haven't.
Did you play Diablo 2?
Yeah, I played. Oh no, wait, 3.
So
I think
only
3 is
three?
the only one I played. Yeah.
Okay. So Diablo 1 is very interesting, and it's cool to see where the series got its roots. Um, the lack of a run button, plus like just a lot of quality of life things, made it. Diablo 2 was the first one I played. I tried to go back to Diablo 1 and I couldn't do it. If I had started with that, maybe, but it was really hard for me to even get into it. But Diablo 2 was just such a beautifully streamlined game. It was a massive step up. Um, Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed 2 compared to Assassin's Creed 1. I
Yeah.
mean, good Lord, that is just a unbelievable leap in quality and things to do, storytelling, the world. It was
Yeah.
pretty dang impressive. And The Witcher.
Yes, Witcher for sure.
Did you play? I know you played 3. Have you
I've
played?
played maybe a handful of minutes on the first game. That's it. I
Okay.
enough to be like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, the first one is really rough to get through. I forced my way through it.
Yeah.
This because the story is still great. The storytelling, the writing, what happens, the characters, is the world building of The Witcher is just so wonderful and really really fun to experience. But man, that game is rough to get through.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to prepare for Witcher 3 when it came out, and I'd heard so much about the series. So I did that, and then I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And my buddy Brian from TFN, he was the big massive fan of the series. He was just like, trust me, play 2 and you will be blown away by how big of a jump it is in quality. And sure enough, man, I mean, it 2 was spectacular. It was a really great game, and I was like, man, that is just damn impressive how much they improved from the first game to this one. There's a lot more places you can go. It's more expansive. The graphics, obviously, the gameplay was better. The instances, the story beats that come up, like you're in massive battles and stuff like that, and it was really cool to see. And I was like, that's a massive jump. So if I'm getting more of this in Witcher 3, then I'm happy. And Witcher 3 was an even bigger leap from Witcher 2, which was
Yeah.
mind blowing to me. So, but yeah, that's another one that was great. So those are the ones that I have.
Well, also with Witcher, the jump from 2 to 3, I think was even more substantial.
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I
that's
didn't
what I was
play
saying.
through 1. It's cool. It's awesome that they get it right the first time, but to do it even better the second time, like a third in the series is usually not the strongest one in the series. It's usually the second one. So the fact that they were able to just knock it out of the park with the third one is incredible. And then
You know what? I will throw another one on there. Suikoden. I don't know how much experience you have with that series, but Suikoden 2.
I've played through 2. I'm pretty far into 2, but I haven't played much of 1 at all.
So
they look like the same game though, based upon the little bit that I did play of it.
They do. 2 was the original game they wanted to make. That was the one that he had in the back of his mind, and he's like, "This is my swan song. I want to make this game. It's going to be awesome, but I don't want it to be my first game because I want to get it right. So I'm going to do a practice one first." So that's how 1 came about. They were like, "We're going to try everything, see how it goes." They did everything they could and made 1, and it's a great game. But then they were like, "All right, now we know what we're doing. We know how to make a game. Let's make the one we actually want to make." And they made 2, and it's unbelievable.
That's such a smart yet risky thing to do.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, but it paid off. So
yeah, it did. Well, did it pay off at the time though? I mean, that's kind of like one of those cult hits. I don't remember it being that popular when it actually came out.
Well, the problem was that not very many copies were made and sent to the US because the first game didn't sell super well. So it's kind of like it didn't have a chance to get popular, really. That's why it's so expensive now, is because there aren't that many copies floating around. It's just super rare. So like when you don't give a lot of people the opportunity to play a game, it's not going to do so great, So I mean, it is what it is. It's like you say cult hit, and I guess on some level that's true, but pretty much it's one of those where anybody who plays it immediately is like, hot damn, this is it's freaking Game of Thrones. So it's really, really, really good. And I think anybody who gets a chance should definitely check it out.
On the PSN, don't try to look for a physical. I don't know if you've noticed the prices on that lately.
No,
that's it's a $300 to $400 game right now.
Oh my god,
it's insane. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
Lord.
But if you get it on the PSN, it's like $10. It's the way to go. That's the one I've been playing anyway.
Good night. Do you own it, physical?
Yeah, I do. I have the whole Suikoden series, even though I've only really played 2 and 3.
Yeah, 3 is actually my favorite in the series.
3 is good. 3 is good.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. So like there's good ways to do a sequel, just like what we talked about. There's also bad ways to do a sequel, and basically the bad way is you usually see this whenever they change studios on development, or if they have an idea, like back in the NES days, they would just completely throw out the concept that worked in favor of something completely new and different, instead of just calling that a different game altogether. And I know I mentioned this last week, or last podcast, but we were talking about Zelda 2, since you just finished that.
That's one of the ones.
That's one of those examples. Yeah, like I don't know if you know the history on that at all, or why they decided to do that, but it's just such an odd choice to me, how they changed it. So
unrecognizable from somebody who grew up with the first one. It's like Zelda 2 comes along, it's like, what is this?
Right.
Like, it's not a bad game, but it's like, it's a bad sequel to Zelda. Like, it's just frustrating. I feel the same way about Final Fantasy. The second game, I don't think is a bad game, but a lot of people, it's their least favorite in the entire series because it was a bad sequel to the first game.
Yeah. Or even Mario would kind of fall into that category. There's a lot of caveats there. But I mean, yes, it's the sequel that we got. Therefore, it's, in my eyes, it is the sequel. So it took a drastic turn, but it's not a bad game by any means. It's not a traditional Mario game. It's kind of the black sheep, just like Zelda 2 is.
Yeah.
But it's still a very fun game. It was one of my favorite games growing up on the NES.
For those that don't know what Adrian is referring to, Super Mario Brothers 2, as we know it in the US, is actually in Japan known as a game called Doki Doki Panic. Has different sprites, different characters on there. If you've ever played Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo, the Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels, that is actually the original Super Mario Brothers 2. What they did was they just thought it would be, I don't know, what was the reasoning behind it? They just thought it was easier to just, rather than bringing over the other one, they wanted something like
The
a
other
little
one
bit
was
different.
too hard.
It was too hard, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other one, and if you've played it, you would understand. They put a mushroom in there that is only intended to kill you. It's a poison mushroom. So the gaps are larger. There's more single post, jumping spots. There's a lot more enemies. It was just an overall much harder game, and in their brilliance, they thought that we couldn't handle it, so they gave us a different version. I'm happy with how it worked out, though. I think the one we got,
a really fun game. Yeah,
I think it's a superior sequel for sure, because the actual sequel it's the same game. I mean, I don't think there was any improvements made to it. It was just there was things added to it, and it was just made more difficult, more of an expansion than a sequel. So I think their decision to release the one that they did was probably the best decision, and I don't think it was a bad game by any means.
No, definitely not a bad game.
Also, Castlevania 2 is another example that tried to take more of an RPG approach to the gameplay. Required you to have a guide basically to get through it.
Very hit or miss depending on who you ask.
It's not one that I enjoy at all. It's too different.
I don't have a lot of experience with the Castlevania series.
I enjoy the games. They're hard as heck, but the second one is not one that I ever want to go back to. Although a lot of people do like it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, there's several other examples on the NES. But what do you have? What are some of your examples?
I've got Xenosaga Episode 2, which I personally loved and thought it was better than the first game. But they changed a lot. They made the battle system a little bit slower. They changed who the main focus was as far as the characters.
It was Junior, wasn't it?
It was Junior in the second one, yeah.
Yeah.
They honestly, like, depending on who you ask and that kind of thing, they probably could have just left it out and gone straight from the first to the third game. There's not a whole lot that adds to it. I personally really enjoy it still. And the third one was really, really good too. But I could definitely see why people were, because it was a jarring change, kind of just like, you took out a lot of what made the first game great. We wanted to know what was going to happen with Shion and going from there. And they're, it's still the same characters, they're in it, but the focal point has shifted a little bit. So I think it kind of rubbed people the wrong way, along with the battle system changes and that kind of thing.
I don't remember much about it. I do remember playing the sequel. It has, yeah. But I really enjoyed the first game, and I remember going into the second game and having a lot of those same sentiments, although I felt like the game was still felt like a Xenosaga game.
Sure.
There were several changes, but the thing that stuck out to me the most, as far as like why it didn't really hit with me, is like it felt the storyline felt more like a separate storyline rather than a continuation, at least for the portion of the game that I played. And yeah, you're right. With focusing on Junior, it's like Junior was not a character that I really cared about in the first game. I was more interested in Cosmos and her story. She's the interesting character in that game, right? So I wanted to see more of that and the continuation of that. And yeah, you're right. It just wasn't that.
And then Final Fantasy X-2.
I love
that game. That game gets crapped on so much. I like it too. I think the battle system and the job system, I love that they brought that back.
It's fun.
I mean, you're playing dress up, but like I think it's really, really fun to experiment and try different class combinations and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that's classic Final Fantasy, but it was such a departure from 10, and not only in like gameplay and that kind of thing, but also tone. It is much more lighthearted. It is much more like comical. It is very, very much girl power, but like comedic, not even like in a serious way. It's
it's a game that I feel like could have been a separate game change the characters. You know, they don't have to be Final Fantasy X characters, because it wasn't really the world that was the focal point of that game. It was the three main protagonists and their trio, or I'm thinking of like what's that movie that came out around that time? I don't remember now. Oh man, drawing a blank. Anyway, it was just more focused on them and their relationship and their lighthearted cartooniness. And they weren't like that at all in the first game.
No.
Their relationship.
I mean,
like
Riku
that at
kind
all.
of is the same character
Yes.
from one to the next. Pain isn't even in the first game, which is fine. I don't mind them introducing a new character. That's totally fine. Even though they had Lulu, they could have just used her. I'm not sure,
Right?
why
Same
they
character,
changed
right?
that. But Yuna is very different, and it didn't bother me as much as it bothered so many other people apparently. Just because I think she has such amazing character growth in the first game.
Yeah.
Where in the beginning she's timid and kind of like, really, really like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, get in your way and blah, blah, blah. Like very, very, very shy and like I said, timid. By the end of the first one though, she is like strong and she's like, I'm going to, go against what they say my destiny is, and I'm going to fight this thing. And I've got my friends to back me up, and it's like, it's empowering. And she really, comes into her own. And she's one of my favorite characters in this series because of that. And I think 10-2 honestly follows a logical progression. I just think it's, to go from one to the next and seeing how she is like, yes, she's stronger at the end of 10, but in 10-2, she's like comically strong. She's like doing acrobatics and stuff with her dual guns and like, telling people off and being silly and all this. And it's just like, she's got her confidence, but damn, dude, like this is just, it's a little over the top. So I totally get the criticisms, but I still honestly enjoyed the game. It's just, I don't know how amazing of a sequel it is to 10, because 10, I mean, especially after playing it recently again in the last couple of years, that game is actually really, really good. So.
Yeah, it's Charlie's Angels was what I was thinking of, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But I was able, when I played it originally, I was able to detach that storyline and those characters almost completely from 10.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what you have to do in order to enjoy it. And I did really enjoy it, like the whole changing jobs on the fly, and you change your whole outfit and everything along with that. That was so cool. I mean, it really is. It kept the battle system fun and engaging, and
agreed.
It was a good game.
Yep.
You have any more on there?
No, that's all I got for
okay.
Bad.
And
like I said, Xenosaga and Final Fantasy X-2 I actually enjoyed, but I know they were not very well received. So Zelda 2 was not very well received, and I don't know that I really enjoyed it that much. It was fine. It was fine, and I'm glad I finished it. But dang, man, that was a departure, because the first Zelda is still, I still get comments on my first review on the channel about the original Zelda.
Really?
And I love, because a lot of the comments are like, if you go look at it, a lot of the comments are like, oh, maybe I should check this game out and stuff. And I love the idea of people going to experience that for the first time. It's
based on your recommendation. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
There are some other ones, like some ones that come to my mind are like
Mega Man 2 is a good one, by the way.
Mega Man 2 is an excellent sequel.
Yep.
Yes, I'm surprised we didn't bring that one up.
As soon as you lifted your arm up, I saw the tattoo and I was like, oh, hey.
I was going to say Parasite Eve 2, I think was I haven't played much of it, but I played enough of it to be like, this is a completely different experience, and it just didn't really click with me.
Yeah.
It's more action based, and they totally ditched the battle system from the first game, where you got the grid circle sphere that pops up.
Yeah.
That was like my favorite part of the first game. So they went in favor of more of like a Resident Evil style approach to it, which typically would be okay with me, but that's not what I wanted. I enjoyed the battle system of the first game. Also, Dino Crisis 2 is another one that totally gets off track. Like the first game it's a Resident Evil with zombies. That's what it is. The second game decided to be more, again, an action focused run and gun, kill a bunch of dinosaurs and move on to the next. And it just, it ditched a lot of the puzzle elements and a lot of the, the intensity of item management and managing your ammunition and things like that in favor of an action style game. And that's like, but that's not what that game is. Why try to make a successful game fit the mold of something that it's not? It's just a concept that escapes me, and I don't understand. Sure. A lot of times I think it's besides studio changes, it's also like people not to people, but the producers of the games, not the developers, but producers, like wanting to change direction in order to maximize the profitability on the game. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. But like an example of a game that changed studios with the sequel is Bioshock. I did not enjoy the sequel nearly as much as I enjoyed the first game.
I like the second one better.
Do you?
I'm in the minority. Most people feel the same way you do.
It's virtually the same game, but it didn't hit with me quite like the first one did. And I've tried to understand why that is, and I think when I was put into the role of a big daddy, it was cool in theory, but it kind of detached me from the realization. What's the word I'm looking for? Realization of being like just a normal guy who stumbles upon this lighthouse and then is thrust into this world that is just completely unbelievable and awesome, just so super cool. So it detaches me in that way, but also it may also be because I've already experienced that world in the first game. Going back to it in the second game without a whole lot of difference just didn't have the same impact on me.
That makes sense. I have a question for you. How do you feel about spiritual successors?
Oh man. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't think of anything. What do you
I
have
am not a fan, and I can give you an example as a reason why. Super Mario RPG going into Paper Mario.
Okay.
I'm not a fan. I would much rather have had another Super Mario RPG.
I would agree with you on that. Yeah. Although Paper Mario, I think of them as two separate games, completely different games.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean by it's not a sequel, but it's like a spiritual successor, because they saw the RPG of just like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is a spiritual successor as well. I think it's fine. I think it's they're okay games, but I would have much rather just preferred another Super Mario RPG in the same vein.
I think they still could do that. If they were to do that today, I think that would be a massive hit.
It would, but they'd have to get with Square on it. We might see it. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I don't know why they haven't brought that game to the Switch, first of all, because they should be releasing that on the eShop as one of their free, games.
What is it that is so different about that game compared to Paper Mario that you think makes it a superior game?
Because it's more like a classic RPG. Paper Mario is more, for one, Mario's like your only character for the most part. You get one sidekick in battle that you get to use, whereas Mario RPG is party focused. You've got three characters. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses. Whereas Mario's the clear front runner. He's the strong guy, and the whatever sidekick he has kind of enhances him a little bit.
I got you.
I wasn't crazy about that. I also wasn't crazy about the battle system in general. I also didn't like the experience and leveling up system as much in that game. I prefer I love the characters that they came up with. They were original characters in Mario RPG, where you got like Gino and Mallow. obviously Bowser and Princess are in there too. But in Paper Mario, it's Koopa and Goomba and the usual crowd. And it's fine. It's just it's not what I wanted. When I heard it, I was like, oh, that's neat, I guess. Oh, so we're not getting another Mario RPG? Oh. So I was just disappointed. So I spiritual successors are fine, but I don't like it when they do that instead of doing a sequel where they could just enhance what already worked, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I have an example just came to my mind. Metroid series, when they jumped to Metroid Prime, that didn't hit with me. And I know a lot of people love the Prime series, but it's not one that ever really resonated with me. I was more of the fan of the 2D action puzzle exploration style rather than the 3D exploration style. It just, I don't know. Like, I don't remember my experience with it enough to really understand like what I didn't like about it. And it may have been just the first person shooter aspect of it just didn't really hit with me. Sure. I would love to go back to that series and give it another shot just to see if my opinion of it still holds up, because I'm talking about back when it first came out is when I played it. And so I'm basing my opinion on it from then.
I'd love to see a remastered version on the Switch.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's something they'll do, especially with them working on the number 4 right now, I guess.
Are they?
It's definitely possible.
Are they?
Yeah.
We haven't heard anything for a while. No, I mean, I'm sure they are, but we haven't heard anything for a long time.
It's a good idea to go ahead and jump back into it now. Especially they have the trilogy on the Wii, and I thought that might be a good way to do it because it's got the pointer, and that might be a fun way to play it. I don't know. I can't think of any other spiritual successors though, not off the top of my head. But you're right. I mean, generally, well, actually, would Final Fantasy Tactics be classified as not necessarily a spiritual successor, but maybe like a spinoff?
Spinoff, yeah. I would say that's a spinoff. Which is Tactics is an amazing game. So
really
you won't hear me complain about it. It's spectacular. I wish we would have gotten more of those. You know what? That's a good example because there are sequels to spiritual successors to Final Fantasy Tactics, the ones on Game Boy. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. They're good.
No, they're not.
But they're completely.
You don't have to be nice.
I enjoyed them. I'm just not a fan of the judge system. That's everything else I really, really like though. But it is not Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation.
No, it's not.
It is much more. It is honestly, it's like the jump from 10 to 10-2. It's a lot more lighthearted and goofy and silly. And they like changed a lot of it, made it more cartoony, and changed a lot of the way things work, the mechanics and stuff. But I still enjoyed it. So it's long. Good Lord.
My biggest problem, I was stoked. In fact, I bought a GBA specifically for that game and Breath of Fire when those came out. I wanted to play the sequel to Final Fantasy Tactics. That was one of my favorite games on the PlayStation. Still one of my favorite games to this day. Maybe like in my top 3 for Final Fantasy games in general. But it wasn't anything like the game before it, other than being a tactical based RPG. That was really the only connecting factor to those two games. Like they ditched. I can understand not wanting to do a big, powerful, just elaborate storyline like they did on the PS1 version for a handheld game. I get that. I'm fine with the lightheartedness of it. But the thing that really bothered me is they did away with the best system ever in those games with the job system and being able to transfer or build up a job, take abilities from that job, transfer it to another job, build that job up, and just have like create your own character with their own set skills and abilities. Unless I'm wrong, I don't remember it being that way.
I think it works very, very similar. I mean, it's got the job system. I don't know about like moving abilities and stuff like that. I know it works the same way as far as like you've got to level up one job to a certain point and then another job to another point, which unlocks another job that you can use to eventually unlock another one, and so on. I don't remember too much about the abilities. I just remember, as far as the battle system goes, the judges ruined that game for me.
It really did.
That was the worst part about it, hands down. It just, you take those judges out and I would go back play that game in a heartbeat. So it was really frustrating.
Even with the sequel on the DS, they kept the judges. I thought that it was kind of unanimous at that point that nobody liked the judges.
No, it was, and especially the story coming from this really political, super serious thing on the PlayStation to this kid who starts out having a snowball fight with his friends and ends up transported into Final Fantasy land. It's like,
oh man,
what?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I one thing I loved about the Game Boy version though is all the different races that you get for each that you can recruit into your party. I think I love having variety in classes and races and stuff in games like that. It's a big reason I'm a big fan of the older Final Fantasy games, because the characters, the casts are so diverse. Like you said, Breath of Fire, that's another huge reason I love that series so much.
That's an example of a good sequel.
Yes, definitely. Breath of Fire
2 was definitely
great.
better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you probably already mentioned them in our discussion so far, but what are your favorite sequels, or which ones do you think stand out the most? I probably answer my own question. Yeah, like Witcher
Mass
2
Effect, Diablo, The Witcher, Assassin's Creed for sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to venture to guess that The Witcher 3 is probably your favorite sequel of all time, since it was your favorite game, right?
It's number 5 on my top 5 games of all time. Yeah, I adore that game so much. Even the expansions, and I don't do DLC and expansions, but I went back for that and I was blown away just as much as that when I played the original. It was so good, so freaking good. So I when I thought sequels though, I was thinking like I know that any game that comes after the original is a sequel technically, but I looked at like immediate game right afterwards. So the second in a series.
Okay.
So I didn't really like The Witcher for sure, because the sequels are better, but I still was thinking of more along the lines of the jump from Witcher 1 to Witcher 2, which was a massive leap. So
yeah. I would say probably my favorite sequel, and like I mentioned before, it's one of the ones I mentioned before, is probably Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill to me,
the first one.
The first game was incredible to me at the time. It was the atmosphere that it created, and it just felt like a different type of Resident Evil game, and it stayed with me for a long time up until the sequel came out. And that was one of the games that I bought my PS2 for. I bought that PS2 for Grand Theft Auto 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Silent Hill 2. So all games that, besides Grand Theft Auto, I don't think I played it on the PS1, but I bought the system for sequels to my favorite games on the PS1. And they did not disappoint, man, at all. And they held up even better than their predecessors. But Silent Hill 2, to me, it took everything that I loved about the first game and just made it so much better. The storyline was better. The characters, having more character interactions, the uneasy feeling the game gives you with the characters that you meet, and the kind of weird wackiness behavior that they go through. And that stuff was present in the first game as well, but I felt like it was done a little bit better in the sequel, and stuck with me a lot more. But yeah, that's for sure my favorite sequel done right.
Cool. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned Resident Evil.
I did. I mentioned it as a sequel done right, but it's not one of my favorites. I still prefer the first game. And this is purely based on nostalgia. I had a better experience with the first game than I did with the second game. So, and I've told that story before, so I won't repeat it again. But yeah, it's all about your experience with the game at that point. And I'll be willing to admit, like 100%, the sequel is the better game. It really is. But for me,
for you.
It's not.
Yeah, totally understandable. Cool, man.
Well, I think I've exhausted everything I have to say on that subject. What about you?
Same. Yeah,
All right, man. Ready to wrap this up?
I'm ready. Yeah. You know what? Hit us up on Twitter. What are some of your favorite, or comments down below, all that stuff. What are some of your favorite sequels? What did we forget to mention? Because I'm sure there's plenty that we forgot to mention. What sequels
absolutely.
suck? Tell us that too. Next month we will be talking E3, possibly some predictions. I think we're just going to do general E3 talk because there's a lot going on with it, and in that it's not the same as it's always been. So we are going to kind of give our thoughts on that, and
we're both
we'll see
E3
how it
veterans.
goes. Yeah. Yep.
If you want to call it that. We've both been to E3, so we can at least talk from a firsthand experience. So
for sure,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely. You got anything to plug?
Not right now, I don't. Man, with things being as busy as they are, I'm still waiting on that break. It's going to come one of these days. Maybe a day too late, but it'll be here.
We're both on Twitter. Obviously, my channel is Game Room Revival. I'll put the links in the comments down below. Also, I was going to say something and it just completely went out of my mind. Oh, that's what it was. Jeez, wow. Go check out my Prey review on the channel because I seriously, like, that game does not get anywhere near the amount of attention it deserves. And that's speaking from my own experience. I am kicking myself for not giving it any sort of attention back in the day. So even if you have seen, or even if you haven't heard of Prey, even if you've just like glimpsed and you're just like, yeah, it's not for me. Seriously, go look at the review. Just listen to what I have to say. It's, man, other than one glaring issue, it is seriously one of the best gaming experiences I've had in a long time. And I cannot recommend that game enough. So go check out Game Room Revival. Go check out the review on Prey 2017. What's up?
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
specifically
it's the newer one.
the newer version.
Correct. I never played the original, and I was at E3 when they announced 2017, and they had like a booth set up for it and everything, but I didn't really do anything with it. I just remember seeing it, but I had no interest, and I'm a dummy.
Well, I played the first one all the way through, and I enjoyed it, but it was just a generic first-person shooter. So I really didn't have an interest to play the second one here. I don't even know if it's a sequel.
Like a Skyrim light in space.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never heard that before.
It's
the only thing I know about
impressive.
The only thing I know about that game is that objects are monsters or aliens, and that's really it.
Yeah. I have quite a bit to say on it. It actually took me a while to write the review because I was trying to figure out how best to articulate because I love the game, but that, like I said, there's one glaring issue that didn't ruin it for me, but made me not play as long as I wanted to. I finished it, but I did not do as much of the side stuff as I wanted to because I got so fed up with something that the game does. But yeah, go check out the review. It's seriously, I can't recommend the game enough still. So that's a spoiler for the review. I love it. But go listen to what I have to say. So, and you'll see some footage too. So
awesome. Gotta have that footage.
Yeah, right. With that, I got nothing else. You got anything else, man?
I'm good. That's it.
All right. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. This is YouTube. Also, if you're on, if you just want to hear the audio version, you can check out any podcast outlet, and Adrian pretty much has us on all those as far as I'm aware. And if you're on the other side of the fence and you're an audio only listener and you want to come see the video, go check out Game Room Revival on YouTube, and you get to see our faces and leave some comments and talk to us. And really quick side thing. My channel is not huge still by any means. I think at this point I'm at like 330-ish subscribers.
That's jumped quite a bit since the last episode.
I've been getting like quite a few comments on the videos that I do put out, and it's like I I tell myself I want to reply to everybody. It's getting to that point where it's getting tougher. Like, because if I go in there and I see like, 11, 12 comments, I think one of them last week had like 16. I want to respond to everybody, and I have been so far. But it's getting really hard to not repeat myself on certain things, and I don't want to like come off as like that. I try to like, be as original as I can and treat everybody, with an original response. So it's getting to that point where I don't know what I'm gonna do, because I really want to respond to everybody. But it's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. I love the attention. It's great. But man, I'm getting a little worried about like how creative I can get with some of these responses. So but thank you for all the support. Seriously, it's been amazing. I get to 500 subscribers. I've got a really cool idea. I'm going to do a video series that's my top 100 games of all time. And I'm going to
be a huge undertaking.
Line of videos with set like 5 games in each one or something like that. It'll take a long time to finish. But it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm really excited about it. So help me get to that 500. Help me get there.
We got to give you that push. Now I want to see it. Got a good incentive there, man. I like it.
So next month E3. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe again, all that fun stuff. Sorry about the little tangent, just had to do it. Adrian, what should they do, sir?
Keep on gaming.
That's right.